How do I age well? It's something I often ponder on. My name's Rosaria Barretto, and I want to find out what it takes to live a healthy and happy life as we age. I'm a clinical exercise specialist, and for the past 5 years, I've worked with nearly 1,000 older adults, and as a result, have had the chance to talk to a diverse range of happy and healthy, and not so happy and healthy people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I want to know what it takes to be able to look back and confidently say, I lived an amazing life. Why not join me on this exploration on what it takes to live happily and healthily and learn how to age well? Hello, and welcome back to the How to Age Well podcast. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about the top 10 most common questions asked by people on Google around healthy aging. So usually I do focus on one specific theme or even two specific themes, but today we're going to be focusing on 10 areas of interest. So I'm going to be going through each of the questions, looking up how many people have searched this in just the last month, a really short and sharp answer, and just any considerations that people need to think about when it comes to this specific area of interest. So number one, what are the most effective anti-aging skincare routines? Now, this is obviously very person dependent because everybody's skin is different. And I feel like that's going to be the answer for most of the questions that I'm going through. But to start off, approximately 10,000 searches were made just in the last month on this question. What are the most effective anti-aging skincare routines? So effective routines, as I said, are person dependent, but I would just say that the most basic foundational ways to keep your skin healthy and avoid premature aging are, number one, is just having a very basic routine that focus on cleanliness. So you've got your kind of basic cleansing, moisturizing, and applying sunscreen daily. Now, it's not a lot to do or to incorporate, but it does keep your skin healthy. It gets rid of all that pollution that's in the air. And it also protects your skin from the sun, which is one of the most important areas of premature aging when it comes to skincare. And not only is it premature, it can also lead to things like skin cancer. So there are other things that you can consider, especially if you have health conditions that are affecting your skin, but there are other products that you can include in your daily routine that can also be beneficial. Now, I'm no skincare expert. Maybe that's something I need to do a whole episode on. But just to summarize, that could include things like antioxidants and peptides. I won't go into too much detail. Another element of what the most effective anti-aging skincare routine could be is also just looking after your diet and drinking water. I do find that those are the most beneficial ways to keep you healthy. Your skin is the largest organ that we have, and we are mostly made up of water, so it does make sense to drink plenty of water and just eat lots of nutrients that are going to promote healthier skin. So the main considerations around this is if you do want to choose products to help you with your skincare routine, maybe you have been neglecting your skin and you need to just have a fresh start, is just consulting a dermatologist or a skincare specialist for personalized advice. But if you're like, I don't have a problem with my skincare yet, but I want to think about it in the future, my top two things would be drink loads of water and make sure you're wearing SPF on a daily basis. Even if it's cold and not sunny outside, it's still important to protect your skin. Question number two. Now, this had 8,000 searches in the last month, just within the UK. And I would love you to guess what it is, but basically it's how can I maintain my cognitive health as I age? Whew, that's a big question. So a really simple way of doing this is engaging in regular mental exercises. And one of those ways that we can do that without even considering taking time out of our day to do mental exercises is maintaining social interaction. Now, social interaction is supposedly, and this is what a lot of research is coming out with at the moment, the number one way to maintain quality of life in later life. And it beats things like diet and exercise. So it's kind of like the top of the pyramid, maintaining social interaction throughout life. And then underneath that, a stacked diet and exercise. So it's really important that you're socializing, you're talking to people, you're engaging with family and friends, you're engaging with strangers. and doing all of that good stuff. And you don't really have to think about that if you're doing that already. If you found that you've got a health condition that's preventing you from leaving the house, then looking at online forums and online classes and online groups can be a really good way of engaging with other people. The other element to this is a diet specific area of interest, which is making sure that your diet has rich in omega-3 fatty acids and antioxidants that can support your brain health. Now, I would really encourage omega-3 fatty acid supplements. I take them every day. I take 2. And that is just because I know that I want to optimize my health in general. I don't necessarily want to have to think about how much omega-3 fatty acids are in my diet when I'm cooking food. So just by having that supplement, it makes it a lot more accessible and regular when it comes to intaking fatty acids. So really focus on those social interactions, really focus on omega-3 fatty acids. And if you're not able to do that, there are other things you can do to kind of just like accessory type things, such as playing brain games, doing puzzles, and playing musical instruments. All of that stuff does actually help you engage with specific circuits within your brain and maintains a certain level of brain health. So all of those good things are really important. Maybe you're in your 50s and you're like, I'm not getting enough social interaction, but I want to work on something new. Maybe just learn the guitar. And that'd be really good for you. So another main consideration is that regular physical activity and adequate sleep are really crucial for cognitive well-being. And there's a lot of research around shift workers and night workers and how their work has impacted their mental health in later life and in the short term. So a lot of research is showing that people working in those industries are really struggling with their mental health. They're struggling with things like depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and also have a shorter lifespan as a result. So it's really important to make that consideration, especially if you're somebody who has lived or worked a long time in the shift work sector, or even if you've been a night worker, or if you're not, but you just have a really terrible sleep routine. It's really important that you're being aware of the fact that having a bad sleep routine can really impact your cognitive well-being later on in life. And obviously physical activity, I do talk a lot about physical activity because that is where my expertise fall. So please go and listen to one of my other podcasts about physical activity and the impact of that on aging well. Question number 3 was, what are the best exercises for seniors to stay fit? Great question. So there are approximately 12,000 searches in the last month. So this is obviously massively person dependent. As I said, I've done lots of podcast episodes on physical activity in later life and throughout life. So please go and check those out. I'll try and include them in the description. But the main thing is that you're moving and that you're moving on a regular basis. And that means day to day, not once a week, day to day. So going for a 30-minute walk once a day, additional weight exercises, doing some mobility. If I could design the perfect exercise regime for somebody, that would look like a walk a day, weightlifting a day, and mobility a day, and doing that 7 days a week. And that could be, for example, a 15-minute walk to the gym, followed by a 30-minute weight training session, followed by 30 minutes of flexibility and mobility training. That could be yoga, for example, but it could also be more purposeful stretches on a specific area of the body. Okay, so that would be my ideal. That's what we would like to achieve, but it's not realistic because we do have other things that are important in our lives. So just exercising and moving as much as possible. And the biggest thing that is going to impact this is how sedentary you are. So if you are working in an office, or if you've worked in an office most of your life, if you are unwell and you stay seated for a lot of the time because you're having to manage pain, or even if you just like sitting down and watching TV and you do that a lot, that's going to be really impacting your health and your ability to age well. So if you do need help with this, you can always contact me and I can help you with some physical activity elements. What I'm doing at the moment is offering people a one-to-one session and where we create a personalized program for that individual, and then they go away and then they do that by themselves. So you don't have that reoccurring outgoing of having a one-to-one personal trainer, but you have got the insight and expertise from someone to guide you in your own personal program. You can also check out YouTube for some video examples. I have a YouTube channel which you can follow, and you can also look at other options like your local gym, local exercise classes. If you are over 60, I actually have a platform which it matches you to the most appropriate group exercise classes in your area. But if you're not looking for group exercise, just give Google a nice Alexa off. If you are looking for more specific exercises, just give it a Google and see what you can find. Maybe you've got a local personal trainer. Maybe you've got somebody who's offering a specific rehab class. And if you maybe don't have the money to spend on these things, then look at your local leisure centres and NHS physio clinics, and they might be able to help. The question number 4 is, how can I prevent age-related diseases? So this was searched 9,000 times in the last month, and the answer to that is a combination of things. Number 1, engage in a healthy diet. Number 2, engage in regular physical activity, as we've just mentioned. Number 3, don't smoke. Number 4, manage your stress. And number 5, make sure you're sleeping well. So all of those things combined are going to massively impact your ability to prevent age-related diseases. Now, I know from my experience with working with loads of people, I've worked with thousands of people, and I have been able to see the implications of things like smoking on their health. I've been able to see the implications of sedentary living on their ability to now socialize. Now, it is really hard to kind of incorporate all of these, and we won't do it all the time, and we will have bad weeks and we'll have good weeks. But the point is that the majority of the time, this is what you're doing. You're being very health conscious. So if you can find ways to support and motivate your ability to stay health conscious, then please do get those essential health checkups, get a health MOT, go and talk to a specialist, do your own research, watch documentaries about healthy aging, listen to this podcast. Like all of these things are going to put you in a much better position to age well. So another point is, if you do have a health condition, then personalized medical advice may be important. So because risk factors do vary among individuals. So if there's something else that you need to consider, go and speak to a specialist, and they can help you work your own health and wellbeing program around your considerations and potential risk factors. Halfway through. So what are the benefits of a balanced diet in aging? So this is approximately searched 7,000 times in the last month. A balanced diet, now, it's a really misleading phrase, I think, because when I was at school doing my GCSEs, I did do food tech GCSE, and I loved it. A balanced diet looked like that plate that the government, I've just knocked the microphone. A balanced diet looked like that plate that the government would send out to schools and the NHS, and it was kind of like split into different segments, and it would show you like how much carbohydrates you needed, how much proteins you needed, how much fats you needed, how many micronutrients you needed, all of those things. But to me, that's not actually true. I think that at that time in life was what people knew as a balanced diet and what the research was showing. But there's so much more research out now since then that debunks the myth of needing that much carbohydrate, and that everybody's different, and some people need more fats and some people need less fats, and some people will need more carbohydrates and some people need much less carbohydrates. And what do different carbohydrates look like? Is it bread or is it rice? Is it pasta? And diet is extremely mind-boggling. There is so much to it. I'd really recommend listening to one of my first ever podcast episodes where I speak to a nutritionist about food, and it is so interesting and talks all about kind of how food can support physical health and chronic health. So go and listen to that. That'll give you a lot more detail than I'm going to go into in this podcast episode. But by making sure that we're conscious of what we need to be eating as an individual, we can then reduce the risk of chronic disease. So there are other considerations. Now, some people say like we need more fiber. Now, that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of mixed research currently going on about how much fiber we actually need. So keep up to date with research. I would also encourage looking at how much protein you're actually getting into your diet, because I don't think, from my experience talking to people, we're not getting enough protein. So look into that and go and find out how much protein you as an individual, because it will be different depending on your weight, your height, your activity levels, and all of that stuff. Number 6, how can you improve your sleep quality in later life? Now, this I think is important throughout life, not necessarily just in later life, but this was searched around 6,000 times in the last month. And basically, another massive area of research is going into sleep. You can see that with the Whoop bands. You can look at all of those wearable devices that are looking into sleep and telling you like how much sleep you should be getting, or how much deep sleep you've got in the night, or how much noise you've made at night, and all of that. So the first thing I would say, just to start from the basics, is establish a regular sleep routine. So does that mean just getting into bed at 9 p.m, maybe not falling asleep till 10 p.m, but at least you're relaxing and you're unwinding, and then waking up at 6 a.m, or not getting out of bed until 6 a.m, and having that strict schedule in which your body will start to get used to when it's out and about moving around, and then when it's resting. Number 2 is just creating a comfortable sleep environment. I have a very kind of neutral environment. I've got plants in there, and it's very, very calming compared to the rest of my house. The rest of my house has a bit more colour, but that for me is really calming, and the lighting in my room is really important for me. So we've got 2 lamps that we can adjust the brightness of. They're warm shades, so all of those things can make such a difference. You've also got limit caffeine intake. So if you are having caffeine, then look into that, maybe not drink after 12 p.m, set some boundaries for yourself. And a big one is technology, and and how often we are using technology, and looking at a bright screen or blue light. So maybe switching off that TV half an hour before bedtime, maybe reading instead, maybe not looking at your phone 2 hours in the 2 hours leading up to your bedtime. All of those things are going to help you improve your sleep quality. And then finally, stress management plays a huge part in this. And if you've got a job that's really stressful, having a really strict physical activity routine and sleep routine is going to be vital in impacting your health in later life. If you struggle with your mental health, then just creating that routine will optimize your chances of having a better sleep routine. There's so much that goes into this. I definitely have a podcast episode on this as well, so go and check that out. And then any considerations that need to be made are things like underlying health conditions that are impacting your ability to sleep. So go and look into that. Maybe there's something going on deeper that we don't know about, and that you need to go and check. Another thing is consider relaxation techniques before bedtime. Number 7, what are the signs of cognitive decline and how can I address them? So this was searched about 5,000 times in the last month. And signs could include things like sudden memory loss, difficulty concentrating, and confusion. And early intervention can help manage these symptoms. However, this is a huge area of unresearched and unknown information. So I can't give you any information on this in depth. I don't have the expertise, but definitely if you're kind of suddenly feeling like strange, then there could be an underlying health condition, but it also could be a cognitive decline element. We only really tend to see cognitive decline in the late 70s to 80s, from my experience working with older adults. If you're seeing it earlier, then definitely you need to be getting that checked. Sometimes you just have natural cognitive decline and it's not really a serious matter, but it's just something to be aware of. So do consult a healthcare professional for an assessment, and keep if you think there's something wrong, keep nagging them. Sometimes you can be fobbed off and they're like, no, there's nothing wrong with you, but actually there is. So just do your research, and if you do really think there's something wrong, then go and get that checked multiple times. Number 8, how can I stay socially active and combat loneliness in old age? This is something that's really important to me from a personal perspective. And this was searched 4,000 times in the last month. But similarly linked to staying socially connected, with that whole link to um, mental agility and brain health. Participate in as many activities that involve other human beings as possible, community events, join clubs, maintain regular contact with your family and friends. All of those things are going to help you stay socially active and avoid that element of loneliness. So, do all of those things. Be proactive. It's not something that always comes naturally to people. You may have a personal experience or situation that you're dealing with that makes you less socially active, and coming out of that can be really tough. So, set boundaries for yourself, ensure that you're doing what it takes. You may have to come out of your comfort zone, but it will be worth it in the end. So consider things like volunteering and pursuing hobbies that you can also meet, where you can also meet other people. I would definitely encourage looking at like local litter picking organisations, local volunteering groups. You could work in a charity shop. You could go and look at a chatty cafe, anything like that. Number 9, what financial planning steps should I take for retirement? I've recently, just I think it was in November or December, had an interview with a financial expert. So go and listen to Claire. Her name's Claire Sweet, and she did discuss this in much more detail on the podcast. So please go and listen to that. This was searched around 3,000 times in the last month. And it isn't just as easy as saving consistently, investing wisely. People don't know how to do all of those things. So there is a lot that you can do, and we just need to be aware of what those opportunities are. But I would just say consult a financial advisor. They can be really, really great at just giving you some tips. You can sometimes get some free financial support. Look at things like what's his name, Lewis, what's his name, the money man, can't remember his name, but he has some really great free resources. Follow him on social media, sign up to his email newsletter, and just review and adjust your plan regularly. Don't ignore the fact that the money's running out, like assess, maybe hold back on some expenses if you can, and all of those things. And just make sure you've got a pension in place, whether that's investment, whether that's personal pension, whether that's a work pension. Go and have a look at all of those things. And finally, how can I adapt my home to age in place safely? So this was searched 2,000 times in the last month, and this is very person dependent. I would say if you're eating well, exercising well, if you are socially active, doing all of those things are going to enable you to not have to rely on things like mobility aids. You're not going to have to install grab bars. You're not going to have to focus on adding a stall in your shower. Like, we want to avoid all of those things because they are essentially debilitating mechanisms. What you can do is, from a practical point of view, is ensure you've got things like adequate lighting. Don't have clutter everywhere. Make sure that you've got space to move around. Very basic things that anybody at any age should be implementing into their life. But just activity and building up your muscle mass and doing all of those things is going to prevent you from requiring the need to depend on external tools to keep you safe at home. So if you do have a health condition, this might be different. For example, let's say you're a wheelchair user, or you've had a stroke, or something like that is impacting your ability to be physically independent. Do consider a home safety assessment. So go and talk to an occupational therapist, go and get a referral from the NHS, and look at your local resources like mobility aid, and go and focus on addressing those specific needs, but at the same time doing exercises. Like, if you are a wheelchair user, go and do your wheelchair exercises. If you have had a stroke, go and seek some stroke rehab support. Do all of those things. Be proactive when it comes to being physically strong and being physically independent. So I hope that's been really useful. These were the most common things that were searched recently. I will include links to the podcast that I've mentioned in the description. So go and have a look at that. And be conscious about aging. Like, I am very conscious about aging. I'm in my 20s. I know I am young, but I also think about what I would like my life to look like in my 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I do work with a lot of people in their 80s and 90s, and I can see people that are really thriving, and I can see people who are really suffering. And I want to be in the group that thrives. So I hope that you have taken some information from this and that you are now more motivated to do the things that it takes to age well. My name's Rosaria Barreto, and thank you so much for listening to How to Age Well. If you've enjoyed the podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback means so much and helps others to find out about how to age well.